What's going on, everybody? Sif checking in. And everyone, we gotta talk about this game between the Raptors versus the Cleveland Cavaliers, because even though the Raptors lost, it was a really interesting game to watch. I'm not even gonna lie, because not only did the Raptors have a chance of winning against the Cleveland Cavaliers, but more importantly than that, remember how I told you all about the different types of mistakes that the Raptors were making up to this point in my last video? Well, those mistakes have been, I wouldn't say fully resolved, but the necessary steps have been taken to resolve those issues. However, at the same time, through those improvements that the Raptors are doing, two additional problems has arisen, which I hope the Raptors take care of as well. So we're going to be covering all of that and more in this video. And without further ado, let's talk about what went down in this game against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, right off the bat, since the Raptors lost, we gotta shout out the Cleveland Cavaliers, because man, oh man, did they tap into their veteran experience to really run away with this game. And to be frank with you all, I really thought that their experience, especially at this stage of their career, is actually surprising, because in my mind, I was really wondering how they got all this experience up to this point. Now, granted, they did have some very winnable seasons in the past as well. However, in those seasons, LeBron James was in the lineup. And if you know anything about LeBron James and his legacy, whenever there's success or anything like that, all of the success goes to LeBron James and the team basically gets shafted. What I mean is, in any winning situation that LeBron James is part of, all of the credit, whether that's a team credit or individual credit, it all goes to LeBron James' legacy success. And in the process of that, nobody really gives praise to the whole team for their contributions. And I felt that was the case for Cleveland, especially during their early stages of success. I'm talking probably around the 2015 to maybe before COVID, 2019 era. But then afterwards that, right, with the bubble and things of that nature, I was really wondering in this game how they got that success. And while people could say it was a change of mindset, it was the coach, it was the players, I actually think it's all combined, because you really saw it in this game. Without Donovan Mitchell, you could really tell that all of the Cavs players understood the assignment of this game, as well as how important this game was in terms of their organization growth. Now, even though the Cleveland Cavaliers ran away with this game, especially in that fourth quarter, let's not forget that in this game, the Raptors did have a chance to beat the Cleveland Cavaliers through their hard work, their tenacity, their passing, their aggressiveness, and everything else in between. However, unfortunately for the Raptors, they did shoot themselves in the foot, which is honestly something that, while we hoped would fix over time, it still hasn't fixed. Which leads me to the two major problems that I have for the Raptors coming out of this game. And number one is our turnovers. Because man, oh man, was these turnovers definitely an eyesore to watch. And quite frankly with you all, to start off the season for the Raptors, I didn't really think the turnovers were going to be a big problem. Because one, we are a very young team, but number two, we have some caliber passers that will really understand how much of importance passing is to this team as well as the game as a whole. However, as of late, that wasn't really the case, because you wouldn't believe me when I tell you that we are averaging 10 turnovers. Let me repeat that so that it sits in your spirit. We as Raptors players and the team, right? We are averaging 10 turnovers. And the crazy part is those 10 turnovers could be the X factor that really changes whether we win a lot of these games or not. I'm just going to be honest with you all, because if we cut down on those turnovers, not only will our shots increase by having good shot selection, but more importantly, the morale and the energy would be off the charts, because now more teammates and more players on the Raptors will be able to really tap into their skill sets that they have, and they'll be able to find one another in a more effective pace. So hopefully the Raptors bring out some game plans or some strategies or some conferences or some communication schemes to fix this, because even though we're a young team, to average 10 turnovers is definitely not a good sign. And sooner rather than later, if this is not fixed, the tolerance level for the fans will be diminished, and at that point it's going to be really hard to convince the Raptors fans otherwise. So hopefully the Raptors organization finds some schemes to fix their turnovers, and because I know for sure going into our future games of the season as well as all our future games of this organization, we cannot have more situations where we're averaging 10 turnovers, because that is just a hindrance for the team, especially in terms of where we're trying to go. Now, speaking of turnovers, the final major problem that I have for the Raptors coming out of this game is our communication, because man, oh man, that may be the main factor that really caused us to lose this game and basically shoot ourselves in the foot to help the Cavs win this game as a whole. Because in the fourth quarter, when things were getting really important, instead of the Raptors cutting and making sure they were open, especially when things went south, instead they were just watching one player do all the work and they didn't really provide any assistance, which really messed up the morale and the whole energy that the Raptors had up to that point. And quite frankly with you all, that is very unacceptable for the Raptors, especially with the amount of experience that they have had up to this point. Now, granted that they have started the rebuild this season, or rather in September. However, this situation is something that has been happening since September through players like Scottie Barnes or Jonathan Mobile. And you would think that the Raptors would make adjustments based on what they saw. However, that was not the case, because they're still making the same type of mistakes that they made in the past, where they're just watching. So to really fix this and put a definite end to it, I would suggest that every single player on the Raptors understand every single play that the Raptors do. I don't care if you're on the floor or if you're on the bench. Every single player has to know every single play, because even from the bench standpoint, they can see the game a lot more clearer than a person who is playing, and because of that, they'll be able to guide each of their teammates whenever things go a little left. And I believe doing so will really help the Raptors be more self-aware, both of where the ball is, but also where their opponents are. And in turn, they'll be able to get more effective shots, and they'll be able to conserve their energy, especially in the later stages of this game when they don't really need to use it as much. And I hope that is something that is addressed in the future team practices and things of that nature, and we'll need to see how they do in future games as well. Now, even though I talked about the Raptors negatives up to this point, we gotta shout out the positive. And in tonight's game, or rather this game against the Cleveland Cavaliers, that was Chris Boucher, aka Eric Boucher, because man, oh man, was Chris Boucher on a mission tonight. I mean, he single-handedly changed the whole vibe of the team in that first to third quarter. And if I'm going to be honest with you all, if it weren't for how Chris Boucher played in this game, well, the Raptors would be in that slump a lot faster than they have. And you could really tell that in this game that Chris Boucher wanted to not only let the NBA world know, but also let the Raptors know that he is who he say he is, and he's going to do everything in his power to help the team win, or at least try to win. And he did that and more, so much to the point where when the Raptors lost this game at the end, you could really see the sadness in his face, because there's nothing like putting your heart and soul into the game and you just come out short. So while the end result is definitely a stab to Chris Boucher in terms of a pride standpoint, we really need to give him his flowers, because for him, and especially what he needed to do for this team to have a fighting chance against the best team in the East this season, man, I don't think any other player could have done what he done given his circumstances. So shout out to Chris Boucher for that and the way he played, and hopefully he will get more minutes and stay in the game longer, especially in our games to come. So yeah, that wraps up my thoughts on this game between the Raptors and the Cleveland Cavaliers, and I'd like to know what you all thought about this game as well. Did you like it? Did you not like it? And anything else in between? Let me know in the comments below. Don't be shy, just speak your mind. And if you're all interested in the other types of problems that the Raptors have been facing up to this point, especially as of late, check out these two videos up here or around here, wherever they are, because we'll be talking about the other problems in those videos as well. And until next time and the next video, I hope you all continue to be amazing. Take care, everyone.